people who are young, especially black people who are young and who like a good time and smoke weed, are kind of fairly liberal people who kind of like to let anything go. So it kind of surprises me to discover that they have some sections who have these ultra-reactionary, almost Nazi-like views. Now, the question that I have, though, is this. Are we maybe missing a slight joke here, albeit a fairly juvenile one? Because juveniles do say things like, you know, if they're Tottenham Hotspur supporters, they'll say, I'd really like to castrate those Manchester United fans and paint their testicles white and then make them eat them. You know, and it's kind of, it's not really what they think. It's that kind of exaggerated male strutting thing that both suggests that they're tough and that they've got a really edgy sense of humour. But it never means that
and maybe that's what this has more to do with. Yeah, I mean, I can totally see the case that, you know, these guys. Why should thinking people sit and analyze rap songs and try and work out whether they're homophobic? I mean, of course they're whatever they are. They're rap songs, and you know, I'm not sure that it's for, you know, intellectual people to sit around and try and figure them out. They're meant to be blared from the boom boxes of annoying teenagers, you know.
Well, what will happen, though, is that the press will be hoping that a lesbian is found hanging in a tree, and then you've got some really good headlines and lots of copy, and lots of, you know, journalists will their work will be easier and they will be revered for covering things like that. But it's not going to happen.
Well, my whole take on it was I couldn't imagine the fact that, you know, we would have to sit and listen to rap songs and figure out which of them are incitement to hatred and ban the ones we kind of think are, and then, you know, you can't really make the case that another guy's isn't, and there's no courts or laws or anything in particular involved in any of this. It's not like the victim of one of these attacks has blamed it on Beanie Man and taken him to court for the beating, you know.
And of course it's good publicity when he's being talked about in the way that he is, I guess, out there.
Absolutely. But in any case, I'm grateful for the freedom of speech we have on the internet, if no other method of broadcasting, and I appreciate you guys in the show, and it's been good to catch up.
Good man, John. That's John who calls. He works on a radio station. I think he has a syndicated show of his own over there where they have some constraints, but not as many as we have over here, but more than he has when he's on the internet. Guys,
I think they probably do have slightly more than us. I mean, we can get away. Although British broadcasting's quite sort of very straight edged, it's a lot less. It's a lot more tolerant of things than the US are. For instance, if someone was to phone up and swear down the phone at Chris Moyles, he'd probably just get a telling off from his bosses. In the States, you'd get your £30,000 fine. You had no control over the situation. You'd still get the £30,000 fine or dollar fine. So.
I don't agree. I mean, when G. Gordon Liddy was doing his show recently in the States, he was telling people just how to shoot liberals. He was saying that obviously when you're going to shoot somebody, you need to get up high, you need a telescopic sight, and he said if you want to take them out with one shot, obviously it's a headshot, but the best thing to do is to wound them first if they're out in the open. So take their legs out, shoot them. He was saying this. You don't get that on Radio 2.
No, you guess you wouldn't. No.
No, and I mean, you know, Howard Stern saying that he would have tied Rodney King by his balls to a police station and driven him screaming around the streets of Beverly Hills. Again, you know.
Yeah, although that was
Ken Bruce.
Although it
couldn't carry that off.
Although although it's tied up a lot since it was the Janet Jackson thing that's really sort of tied down the American broadcasting now, and anything that could be deemed slightly controversial is now investigated by the FCC or whatever it is over there. Yeah, it's a little bit more.
It's an interesting idea you have. We've got more freedom in broadcasting than the Americans.
Maybe not so much more, but it's different. I mean, we don't. Here we could get away with saying things like crap or bloody on the air, right? On normal radio, where they would never even go anywhere near that in the States at all. I mean, that would get you a fine and taken off the air straight away.
That's very interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh, shit. Jesus, when were you last broadcasting in America?
No, I'm not. I just listen to Howard Stern. He rants about it all day, doesn't he? So.
Oh, right. Okay. So you got your views on American radio from hearing what Howard Stern has to say about
Not just Howard Stern. I listen to other American radio as well.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. No, I think you're quite wrong. The Americans...
Fair enough.
The Americans have got a lot more room than we have.
Okay.
And the reason for that is it's simply because they're commercially driven. And frankly, they don't give a toss about the authorities, and they don't even care about going to prison. In fact, they'll often enjoy the idea of standing up for what they say they believe in. But what they believe in is the dollar. And whatever puts bums on seats, or ears, listeners on the ratings thing, they'll do it. They'll absolutely do it. And I admire that. I like that a lot. And they'll do it well. That's the thing.
Yeah.
When you compare British radio, you go into a British radio studio, right? Anywhere, any one of the 600 or 700 radio stations in Britain, you go in there, you wander in there, and there's shit everywhere. Actually, this place is relatively tidy. Actually, but you go into a British studio, and there'll be chairs everywhere and shit. And you say to the producer, "Why are those 3 chairs over there?" And they'll go, I didn't know they were there. They've been there for ages. I think we had a meeting in here last Easter. and now you go to an American studio and you say, okay, why are those 2 chairs there? And they've got the same answer. They go, okay, 3 reasons. 1, they have got 3 reasons why there are 2 chairs over there. and they're real reasons. Because the Americans, they keep taking it to pieces and putting it back together again, then taking it to pieces again and putting it back together again. And I like that. And I think that's what, we should be doing. So if they say crap, that statement that I just told you that Howard Stern said about Rodney King, which is probably his most famous thing, they sat down and worked that out for 6 weeks before he went on air with it. Everybody was in on it. All the station executives, the advertisers, they were all in on it. And he knew exactly what he was going to say, why he was going to say it, and what the impact would be of it, because that's how they approach broadcasting, whereas we bumble along a lot, don't we? You mustn't comment, Fiona. Some emails, Matt. Then we'll take a call and then maybe a Skype call too.
Yes, slightly off the beaten track. Oliver Knight says, in Dr. No, Sean Connery chides a woman for sitting around with wet hair as she could die of pneumonia. Yet several years later in The Untouchables, he clearly states before an action scene, well, you've got to die of something. It's fine to have morals to Sean, but do try to be consistent when expressing them.
That's a very nice, almost Viz-like quality to that email.
Certainly is. M. Williams says, hi Tommy, I swear you got on my train about a year ago, got on here and got off at Brighton. Was it you? Also, can you list your top 3 radio presenters, past or present? And when are you getting Ian Lee on the show? Or is that not going to happen because him and Matty Boy don't get on?
I like a little bit of antagonism. I think it's good stuff, and I'm looking forward to. It depends. I'm going to be really honest. If you really don't like Ian Lee, okay, and he really doesn't like you, then I'm interested. But I'm not. And as a former wrestling promoter, I know what I'm talking about here. I'm not bothered in one of these fake, rivalries that you sometimes get, because that's crap, isn't it? I mean,
sure.
It goes on everywhere. I worked at one radio station where the guys were so hopeless that I couldn't have a rivalry with any of them, so I invented another broadcaster just so that I could have a rivalry with myself. But it was shit. Better than the rest of the stuff, but anyway. So my favourite 3 broadcasters of all time, I like William Joyce, who did such a good show during the war that they hanged him for it. And to my knowledge, he's the only broadcaster who's ever been hanged for his show, which I think is harsh. Fired is bad enough.
Still time, Tommy.
Shut up. Good point. Who else? Wogan's brilliant. People don't realise. They think he's a silly old fart, but he's genius. And I intended to say Kenny Everett, but I won't. I'll say a friend of mine called Adrian Love, who's no longer with us, who was one of the smartest broadcasters around, and it was just a genuinely nice guy. And that is important, I think. So good email. Thanks for that. Email studio@playradiouk.com. This evening we're taking Skype calls. Play.radio.uk is our Skype name. We'll take some phone calls as well. Let's do that right now, and then I'll remind of the numbers you can contact. Hello, thank you for calling Play Radio. Who's this?
It's Zara.
Hello, Zara.
Hello. Well, I was thinking about this Mohammed thing.
and in relation to freedom of speech and the whole kind of Islamic religion, who are pretty much anti-freedom of speech, and just wondering during the week whether it was something that you would talk about actually on Play Radio. So I'm quite pleased that you are. As far as what you were saying about this teddy bear thing, there is one